This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards. Hi there, everybody, and welcome once again to Standup Comedy, your host and MC. And I'm your guest host, Bob Stobener. Today I'm filling in for Scott, who's locked up in the basement downstairs, and he can't get out. And so I've taken over the podcast today, and I've also brought in Lynn Stobener.
Thank you very much.
Lynn Stobener, an exceptional comedian and performer, and also my sister. And I thought that the Stobener twins we're not twins, but I thought the Stobeners would just completely take over Scott's podcast today because he's locked in the basement.
Cool.
And I thought that, we can go over some of the memories of Laughs Unlimited and have some fun just talking about some of the stupid things that Scott did over the years.
How much time do we have?
Well, I don't know. There's wait, did you hear something? Oh shit.
Hey!
I thought the drugs would last longer than that.
Melatonin is not a good drug to knock people out.
Was it melatonin you're supposed to use?
No.
I used Jell-O.
Ooh, well.
All right.
I think we should let him out.
Man, why did you lock me in the closet?
I didn't, Scott. It was an accident. You really should get your doors fixed around here.
Jeez. Well, what's going on? You're recording a podcast?
I took over all your equipment. You got some great equipment here. This is excellent stuff. Top gear.
Well, thank you.
The great production quality on this podcast.
What does that KCRA thing on sketch on
No,
the side of that?
They'll never miss it.
Sorry.
They'll never miss it.
I think it's funny, listening audience, that Scott just looked at the side of his equipment
For the very first time.
to see if a KCRA was there. That melatonin and Jell-O must have really...
Yep. Well, anyway, as long as we've got your attention, audience, and before we start asking for the donations, I thought maybe we would go over a few fabulous Laughs Unlimited memories from back in the day. Now, Laughs Unlimited, Scott, have you told them about Laughs Unlimited? Oh,
yes.
maybe you have.
What is this unlimited laughter you're speaking of?
Well, it's we termed a comedy club back in the 1980s. And it was around for a long, long time, and it was a lot of fun. We all worked there.
Yes.
And of course, Scott is the primary laugh person, the owner.
The laugh creator.
The laugh creator. Backstory, Scott and I were driving, we've told this story, but it's so fun. Scott and I were driving on I-80 from coming into Sacramento, and he said his then wife and him had gone to the Comedy Store in LA, and he thought, man, this would be great to bring comedy into Sacramento and open up a nightclub. And Scott has come up with a lot of crazy, stupid ideas.
We should mention
Where's the applause on that?
Over the years. Yeah. But I thought, as if it was just yesterday, I thought to myself, man, that is a great idea. That will actually work. And so he made it happen. And we all chipped in and helped. And we met a lot of very cool people and had a lot of great memories. And I know that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, but it's okay to say that you and I have known each other since high school, and we'd actually started two other companies previous to the chain of comedy clubs.
Yeah.
So there was some history of me arm twisting you into adventures.
And against my better judgment, I did join you, and we started. That's a joke. We started. Of course, I would have joined you.
Somehow that accidentally locking him in the basement's making a lot of sense now.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can do it again.
And I want to say that it's been mentioned before, but let me say it here and now, that if it wasn't for Lynn Stobener jumping in as like my little sister back in August of 1980, because it was all me in the beginning, and she came in first as a volunteer, and then she got some friends to come in, and all of a sudden I kind of had a staff. I did eventually pay them, but thank you for that, because
well, after my 3-week tenure at Burger King, I decided to move on with my career.
Well, you were already assistant vice president or something. I mean, you had a good
my own
title.
franchise.
You had an office and everything.
But it was a really exciting life. We had a lot of great fun, and we have some stories that I gave a list to my co-host here, my host for the day, Bob,
Yeah.
to go through and see if we have the similar memories or dissimilar memories. I mean, as I look over in the corner, I see the Big Bamboo album by Cheech and Chong that was autographed to me by Tommy Chong, who actually worked the club twice. And that was really exciting. But I'm sure there's other memories, Bob.
Well, yeah, and what we've done is we've torn up the sheet of paper that you gave me and to all these little bits and pieces, and we put them into this magic hat. And we will draw. I will pick out of the magic hat, and we will bring up.
Make sure when we pick that our fingers are not sticky fingers.
Oh, that
I
is
can't
good.
believe you didn't.
On the nose, everybody. That was the name of one of our restaurants.
We are referencing.
Boop, boop. And Magic Hat was a magic bar we had. Whoop, whoop.
Yep.
All right.
We had a ton of different things in the Sacramento region. If you've never been to Sacramento, a lot of these things were like neighboring businesses, and so we had like a whole bunch of things in Old Sacramento.
We took over Old Sacramento.
It was fun.
Wait a minute. What's that on the wall? It looks like art made of pasta.
Oh, there you are. Oh, look at that.
I was
another
thinking
restaurant.
art. This
Another
art should
failed
be in a
restaurant.
gallery.
Wow.
A cartoon
Yes.
gallery.
As if it were.
Okay, we've now name dropped four of the businesses we've had.
You're going to have to edit all of this out. Anyway, let's dip into the hat and see what we find in here. Okay. Oh, here's the first one. Rodney Dangerfield. Now, I was not here when this happened, but I can imagine this happened a lot at comedy clubs in the 80s because Rodney Dangerfield had his own club, and he was really well connected with a lot of the comics, and especially Saget was one of his best friends. And Saget would come up and name drop Rodney a lot. He would just say, "Oh yeah, I was at Rodney's, so and so last week, and he's a great guy and stuff." And
Probably called him Rod.
he may have.
And Danger. Rod Danger.
It's actually not much of a story, but one night Bob Saget was headlining at the club, and my then employee, now bride, Jill Smith Edwards, was working the bar, and the phone rang, and she picks it up, and she goes, "Hey, this is Rodney." And Jill's like, "Okay."
Rodney.
No, Rodney Dangerfield. She goes, "Oh, how can I help you? I need to talk to Saget. Need to talk to Bob." And she wasn't sure what to do. I mean, normally, you obviously you don't interrupt an act on stage, and she was just bartending at the time. But she politely put him on hold and checked, and, Bob still had, 20 minutes of his set to do. And she went back on the phone. Mr. Dangerfield, he's on stage. I'll give him a message. Yeah. You do that.
But credits to Jill, because Rodney obviously had a real, iconic voice and very easy to fake. Mm-hmm. So anybody could have done that impression. The fact that Jill even trusted that it was actually Rodney Dangerfield, and, that's really something. But
yeah, when she tells the story, and she's not here right now, she would say
to
that
defend herself.
The person just said it's Rodney.
Yeah.
And it kind of, but she didn't put two and two together. She wasn't expecting a call from Dangerfield. So she did manage it very well. But it was but a brief moment in our life, but one of those, what do you call a close call to fame? There's
6 degrees of bacon.
6 degrees.
Not Kevin, just the sizzling.
Not Kevin. Thank you.
1 degree of bacon on Sunday. We had some good bacon on Sunday.
Oh, with your pancakes. Didn't you have
that was great. Anyway, sidetrack. Sorry. See, that's what happens. That's why you don't let me host. Because I'll do that. I'll go into Easter Sunday breakfast just like that.
Just like
for no
that.
reason at all. Okay, let's dip into the hat. Comes up with pigeons. You dip into a hat, you don't know what you're going to get.
I got to tell you, they're really good with bacon. But
boom. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I know.
Comedy genius right
Comedy and pork.
So the story that he's pulled out of the hat was we had a really good comic magician named Great Scott. He's still around, lives down in San Diego, and I don't think he's performing anymore. He's retired. But he used to work our club all the time, a couple times a year, and always on Halloween week. And he was a terrific magician. Did have some comedy, but I would say unlike other comic magicians, he had some straight magic. He always ended his show to a Santana's Abraxas album.
Yes.
And he would make appear like 15 doves and then make them disappear. And the audiences loved it. It was always really well done. And being the producer of the show, we kind of were with him backstage, so we kind of knew how the tricks were done, but the audience was always very amazed, and it was a really good set. However, early in the 80s, this new up-and-comer out of Russia, Yakov Smirnoff, was booked with Great Scott. And Great Scott said, look, I break my act into 2 sets, so it's going to be the opening act, a little bit of Great Scott, then Yakov, and then Great Scott would go back and do this big dove presentation.
So it's more comedy first.
Right,
magic.
kind of comedy and then magic. And every other entertainer would go along with it. Well, Yakov, who, by the way, is a really nice guy. I just talked to him the other day. He's doing great. Was in Bali last time I talked to him. He's getting around the world. But he refused.
He must have been bigger then, because why would
I think
you
so.
have
He had
given-
already had a little bit of fame. He was already doing some work with Ronald Reagan and writing for some speeches and doing some comedy. He'd already, there was a couple movies he was in.
He was a super headliner. I mean,
Yeah.
he had. I could
Which
see,
is-
And anyway, he refused to do this bit for Scott. And I was a weak producer. I should have made it happen. I didn't. I let Yakov call the shots. And Great Scott went ahead and did his whole set with these pigeons magically in his around him to be appeared. But anyway, the story is
he was wearing the pigeons for 45 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
well, we don't want to give away the trick,
Okay,
but
but I
the
mean-
point
Let's
is
just say the pigeons did not have a nice breathable space.
yes, they were somewhat hyperventilating and stuff. And so Scott was doing his act, and he would make a pigeon appear and then put it in this nice cage. So he was making these pigeons appear, and when they appeared, they were dead.
Yeah.
If not dead.
or near dead.
Near dead.
They were
It's
on-
not dead.
Yeah.
It's not dead.
It was dead.
Mostly dead.
It was dead-like.
And the thing is there's like 15 of them, so he couldn't really stop his act.
Well, and when the birds were living, in his previous times at performing, he would put them up on a perch.
Yeah,
They would
Yeah.
stand on the perch. Dead pigeons, however, don't have very good balance.
Poor Scott's trying to balance
Yeah.
the pigeon on the perch
Yeah.
against the
So
cage.
then they just sat him
Yeah.
down.
So he just
Oh,
set it
my
up,
God.
and he couldn't really stop it. He just kept going and going. And I'd say out of the 15 birds, we lost 3 or 4.
We-
There was
Yeah,
another.
We did not.
He lost 3 or 4, and then there was another 4 or 5 that were hyperventilating and couldn't stand on their own feet. And
it was very hard to give mouth-to-mouth
Oh, yeah.
resuscitation to some of those birds.
I know you tried.
I know.
well, the audience was just aghast, and we, as the hosting of the show, were like, "Oh my gosh!" But now, looking back, it was one of the funniest.
Yes.
And
saddest, funniest moments. I know there's people out there with the pro-life animals that's going to get pitchforks, but
yeah,
it was one of those things that nobody could have controlled. It just happened.
it was an occupational hazard for the pigeons.
Yeah,
really was.
and
They were old anyway.
And by
They
the
all
way,
knew the risk when they went in.
and there's a good end to the story.
Oh, I know.
For the pigeons?
Yes, and for the pigeons, because at the end of his show, they'd all vanished.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was no dead birds.
But the most amazing thing is when Great Scott pulled Yakov out of his pants. The very last one. I don't know how he did that.
Yeah, and he was hyperventilating.
And he was, but enjoying it. Anyway.
Okay, we've gone down
All right.
Well, I
a
have-
dark path,
We
but that
did.
was
I
the
have
story.
a bird story too. Well,
Okay.
no, it was 2 things, and I might have mentioned it before on this podcast because I've been on here before. But anyway, it was some magician that only played our club once because he was pretty much a dick.
Okay.
He was very much a jerk. He was not nice to his girlfriend, and we did not all.
Oh, I
care
think
for
I
him.
remember this story.
So there were 2 things. One of he would make a cat appear. Very first thing that he did on stage. Well, the way he does that is the cat's in a sack on his back. cat's sack bat. And so I was backstage and he's, doing whatever. And all of a sudden you hear, meow. It fell off his back. And then the other one was involving a bird, and I don't remember exactly, but I think he made it appear whatever. But then it just started flying around the room and would not come back to track. And Brian Benton got on the back mic and said, "Whoever ordered the chicken sandwich, it's going to be a little while." But it was I was just thinking, this could not have happened to a nicer magician.
I remember that, and it took us a while to coax the bird to capture it again.
Right. But this guy's a hack. I'm flying away.
But Bentoni had the perfect line for that. That's hilarious.
It was Brian. Let's give.
Brian.
I don't want to.
I'm sorry.
It was a good line.
I'm sorry.
It was Brian.
Brian got on the back mic and said that. Perfect timing, everything. Wow. But I tell you, the sound. If I think hard enough, I could hear the sound of the cat hitting the.
Yeah. No, you did it. You did a good example. I think the audience has that image in their face.
And the cat lived, by the way.
There you go. Good. Well, what's in the hat now?
Let's go look.
Host Bob.
That really doesn't.
I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're just kind of having fun and goofing and sharing old Laughs Unlimited stories.
And don't forget, the 29th caller gets a free chance at winning $5,000.
That's correct. Has a chance. Yeah, we're not. Okay. This one's a little.
My fingers.
This one's a little dark. Sinbad and the Death Threat.
I've seen that movie.
Do we want to go down this path?
Well, it turns out nobody died. It was an interesting story. So here's the story I will share. I was the booker of the club, and so people had to showcase for me. And there was this one local guy who showcased, and I would always try to help him and give him advice, and actually told him that, maybe comedy wasn't his thing. Bottom line, he wasn't very good. And he seemed a little, let's just say you get that feeling where the hairs in the back of your neck go up, maybe slightly disturbed. So after some big open mic and a discussion with him about the reality of his future as a comedian, I got a 7-page handwritten letter. Like a manifesto, 7 pages. And the first 5 were how much he loved me and respected me and how much I knew about comedy. And
he must have been a wacko.
Well, here's what's interesting. The last 2 pages were basically a long written out death threat. And how the many different ways he would kill me because he was not happy with where his life was going, and it was all my fault.
Wow.
Well, I knew the guy. I'd interacted with him. I knew he was a bit off, and I didn't take it serious. I didn't tell the police. I did share it with some of my staff.
Did he work for those birds?
But eventually it was just gone. It was just something that was in the past and I didn't think about. Now fast forward about 8 months and the phone rings and I answer it. And the guy goes, hey, this is Sinbad. Now, for those in the audience that don't know, Sinbad's a very talented actor who started off as a stand-up comic, had a lot of fame, very, very talented guy, but we'd never worked together. I did not know him. But he called and said, hey, this is Sinbad. Are you Scott Edwards? And I said, oh, yeah. How can I help you, sir? I had no idea what was going on. He goes, the freakiest things just happened. I met this young comic down here. This is in Hollywood. And, I was kind of nice to him. And I got this weird letter where on one part he kind of loved me and looked up to me and praised me. And then he threatened my life. I've talked to the police, but they say they can't do anything until after I'm dead. I heard that you knew this guy, and I said, oh, geez, I'm so sorry, Sinbad. I know this guy. He's harmless. He's a bit whacked, but I got a similar 7-page letter, and I ignored it, and I think you should too. And he was like, really? Because, I don't want to take any chances. And I said, no, you do what you feel like you need to do, but I'm not too worried about it. And I don't think you should waste any more energy. By the way, You're a good actor. Nice to meet you.
And how much do you want for a week?
No, the call just ended and we hung up. But then about a year and a half, 2 years later, he was actually working at a club here in Sacramento. And I was doing some business with the club owner. And this is during the day, not during a show or after a show. And I show up at the club to talk business, and Sinbad happened to be there. And I introduced myself and I said, we have a connection not many people have. And he and of course, he gave me a strange look and kind of backed off a couple paces.
You're not the guy. You could have been the guy with the look.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I said, I'm Scott Edwards. I own Laughs Unlimited. And before I could say the connection, goes, oh, yeah. Oh, man, you were so great. Thanks so much. And it was so funny because you would have thought we'd known each other for 10 years. There was this bond over the death threat. And we sat and chatted for at least, 20, 30 minutes about the craziness of the industry. And I kind of caught him up on this guy. But that's my Sinbad connection.
That's, it's not every day you get death threats like that.
Yeah.
No.
At least you. I don't know.
No. I mean, I've had transvestites throw me hotel keys, and I've had...
Well, that's understandable.
I've had some weird things happen, but that was my one and only death threat.
That's really
I've had
something.
a death threat.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah?
At the Stockton Club.
Yeah.
Remember?
No.
Oh, never mind. No.
You're going to elaborate?
Well, it was I remember it was a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And we had a comic magician that I can't think of his name. And that was kind of funny too, because earlier in the week he did that trick where he's got a dinner table with dishes and everything, and you pull the tablecloth off, and woo. Anyway, we were bored one night, so we tacked the tablecloth down, and so when he yanked it, the dishes just went. So anyway, so we had already played a practical joke on him earlier in the week. So Sunday comes, and the bartender came up to me and said, we just had a death threat. And this was in Stockton, so this is just like a,
normal life.
Very possible.
It's a Sunday. Yes, it's very possible. So
Sorry,
the first
Stockton.
thing we had to do was try to wind up the show and convince the headliner that this was actually happening and we needed to wind up the show. It's not a practical joke. And then the other thing is... because we didn't necessarily think it was true, but, didn't want to be wrong about that. So I went in the office and I was wrapping up stuff, and then I had to call down to the main club and let them know what's happening. And so I call, and Jill Smith.
Same bartender.
So Jill answers the phone. And again, I'm in my office doing the book stuff. So I'm on my calculator, tapping to the right, and the phone's to the right. So I'm doing two things at once, and I say, hey, Jill, we just had a bomb threat. And I was meaning to zero out the calculator, but I hit the phone, hang up. So Jill hears, hey, Jill, it's Lynn. We had a bomb threat.
Scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, and I was laughing. I was peeing my pants. It was so funny. But Jill did not take it.
No, she came running to me in a panic, the look on her face, because Stockton has had some issues.
I had my tires
slashed and stuff. Yeah, we'd had some issues. And Jill took it very serious. And when that hang up happened, she came running to me with the look of a ghost. She was frightened to death. Lynn just called. There's a bomb threat in Stockton, but the phone went dead.
It was perfect. I mean, the timing of me saying it and then clicking
hilarious.
it. Yeah.
So you two have both had death threats.
Oh,
I feel so left out.
No, you got punched, though. You
so
got
I was going to say,
cold-cocked.
okay, so I was going to tell that story. So,
Well, wait. Before we move on, Lynn, was there a bomb?
No, but actually, the crew and I, we sat out front having a little cocktail and watched the building to see if it blew.
And I did call and kind of make sure everything was okay once I got the message. So that ends the bomb scare story. But yeah, Bob, you had a little excitement yourself.
Yeah, so I'm emceeing the show. And if anybody in the audience, if you worked in comedy, you know the desperation, how sucky it is when you have an audience member or group of members who are just drunk off their gourd and they're just not good citizens.
And
you were not good comedy citizens.
You were running the Birdcage Club.
The Birdcage Club, and this particular party was just obnoxious and just killing the whole show. So I had to kick them out. And they're, you know, they're
'Cause they
not
wouldn't shut
they're not at the at the back of the room where it's easy. You could do it without the rest of the audience really seeing it. They're right dead center of the room. So I just, okay, time to go. And there was like maybe 6 or 7 of them. So we're marching them out, and they're, of course, they're all bitching and yelling and stuff, and they're just as drunk as you possibly could think.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we get out, and then they have elected a spokesman. So they've all
wait a minute. They had a quick parliamentary vote.
Well, apparently there was one who spoke for the group, and you know, he's yelling at me and saying, if we ever have this problem again, I'm going to have a lawyer and blah blah blah. And I'm just saying, yes sir, but you have to go. And I turn my head to the left. I really remember this. I turn my head to the left to make sure that, you know, the door is closed or the curtain's closed and the audience is okay. And I just feel like the wall behind me just came crashing down on top of me. That was the feeling of it. He had decked me just right across the chin, just completely knocked me on my ass.
You weren't paying attention, and he cold-cocked you.
He cold-cocked me. Because I was looking right at him, but then I turned to check on the audience, and that's
we
when
should
he
explain to the audience, Bob is a titan of a man. He is buff and muscular, and to make him go down had to have been like getting hit with a sledgehammer.
That guy's hand must have hurt. No, I'm not.
I
I'm not
just
that way.
remembered.
But yes, and then I got myself up somehow. Cassie, my lovely wife, came out.
I was going to say,
and
Cassie
she worked
took
for
care
us
of him.
too. Yeah. But anyway, the cops came, and they had them all outside, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said no, just get them out of here. And so that's my little. That's all I can contribute.
Well, that's kind of close to a bomb threat or a death
I
threat.
did have physical damage.
Yeah.
You know, this is. We should really go into the hat and find another story, because this is getting a little old. Lynn, why don't you pick one out of the hat there? It's your turn.
Ow! Just
Yeah,
kidding.
that really doesn't
Right.
sound like
Paper
a hat.
cut.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't sound like it, and I have no glasses, so hold on there. What the hell? Blackout.
Oh, I just put that on the list because, you know, the old adage, the show must go on,
Right.
is a true adage in show business. And there were a couple times, I would say at least 4 in the history of the club, where due to a storm or some adverse activity outside, all the power went down. Now, when you have a room full of audience that's looking to be entertained and you've paid these entertainers, the show must go on. And what we would do is the club was designed so that everybody could hear the comics. Even we always had a really good sound system, but even without, the comics know how to project their voice. But lighting, of course, is an issue. We always kept a stash of flashlights, and we would hand flashlights to various people in the audience and tell them to shine it on
very cool.
the entertainer.
Yeah.
And what was really cool about it was it obviously disrupted the show. It made it difficult for both the audience and the entertainers. But because everybody's sharing that moment of uniqueness, being in a blackout and yet being in the middle of a comedy club and in the middle of a show, it kind of bonded everybody.
Yeah.
And the audience people took their job very seriously. You know, they could have wielded the flashlights all over and been a distraction. But no, they were like rock solid on the entertainers, and the show went on. And I just think that that's one of the amazing things about humanity and show business is that sometimes difficulties are, it's not really a tragedy to have a blackout, but when you have something like that, everybody bonded, got in together, and got it done. That was kind of cool.
Restores my faith.
Yes.
It really kind of does. Actually, because I remember that story. I remember that night. And I wasn't there. Must have been at the other club. But I remember you
Getting
telling
smacked.
me. Yeah, I was getting smacked. But yeah, I do remember you telling the story about they all just hung because they wanted to see the show. They were all in for the benefit of the show, so they all chipped in to make sure the show happened.
Yeah, and nobody asked for a refund. Nobody got pissed at us. They knew it was something we couldn't control.
And there were no mics because the sound system was out, so everything was,
That's the perfect club for that to happen to, though, being in a basement and
Yeah, it was
having the
great.
no carpet
A great
up front.
room.
It had a good.
And we had that nice kind of, what's it called? It went up in the back. It was kind of a bowl.
Yeah, right. No, it was a perfect
I
comedy room.
always thought that was the best room.
Not that this is, anyway. Sometimes Sunday nights when there weren't a lot of people, it could, the show could either go super flat or you could have a lot of fun because, the group is really a great group of people. And like one show, I don't know, there was hardly anybody, but I took everybody's order and we ordered Fridays and had food delivered. And, and the comics were really into it. So it was like a really intimate show that everybody was just kind of hanging out, but they loved it and it was really fun.
It makes it special. When we used to have small crowds at the main room, I would sometimes just do the show in the bar. I had to have at least 10 people, but if we had 10, 12 people, and the comics kind of liked it because instead of feeling that pressure to put on a show, there was many times, Gary Shandling or Dana Carvey, they would literally sit on the stool and talk with the audience. And it was very intimate and very funny.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's the Gary Shandling story about a small crowd or something like that?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you, but Bob was going to share something.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that Sunday nights sometimes were the best nights of the week for those reasons, because that's when everybody was really super relaxed and if the people were really into it, we could do a lot of different things. Like I remember, it was like springtime, weather was just starting to get nice. And it was like the first Sunday night that we had really great weather in Sacramento. And Sacramento evenings, you can have like amazing evenings because the weather's still warm. So, we're in the basement club and we had like 20, 25 people. And I think I was emceeing that night. For some reason, I think I seem to remember I was. And I just said, screw this. Let's not be inside. Let's go outside and do the show outside. And we had a restaurant across the alley that had a little stage. So we took everybody over to Art of Pasta and we started up the sound system over there and we just did it outside. And it was really great. And it's just, the thought of getting all the customers to get out of their chairs and take their drinks and move them across the aisle, go down a block. That was just one of those nights you could do one of those things. I know there's another story on here about Gary.
Well,
I want to get into that story next.
Well, it's interesting though, because what we're sharing is that even though we were the producers of a comedy club and a comedy show, and the comics we only used professionals, it was interesting how intimate it could get in the right circumstance. I mean, you still have your sold out Saturday night, 8:00 show where you get them in, sell them a couple drinks, give them some comedy and send them home. But there were Tuesdays and Wednesdays or, T-shirt Tuesday, you wear a T-shirt, you get in free that we made and sold or Monday nights open mics. But Sundays, I think we're really extra special because it's not a going out night. So the people that are there are extra vested in the comedy. And I think that's a great story. I remember us doing that, and doing the show at the Art of Pasta was a perfect ambiance for a comedy show outside.
It was great.
Yeah. The Gary Shandling story is very early on. It's I opened the club in August of 1980, and this is probably September, October. Gary was our opening act, our very first show in August of 80, and was quickly a headliner. He was really, really talented. And it was like a Wednesday night because we used to do shows every night of the week. And it was, I think, minimum 14, 16 people in the audience, but the show must go on, right? It was more than 10 people. That was my rule. And Gary is about halfway through a set, and this guy gets up to go to the restroom right in the middle of a set, which, happened. But in a room of 200 or 100, you're not going to even notice.
Right.
With a show of, 14 people.
It's a high percentage of people leaving the room.
Gary stopped after the guy had left the room and said exactly what you just said. That's too high percentage of the audience to leave. I can't go on unless we're all together. Come with me. Yes. And he took the other 13 people, men and women, down the hall to the men's room, walks right in. The poor guy standing at the urinal doing his business. Gary goes and stands right behind him. And there's not a lot of room in this bathroom.
Come on in, everybody.
Yeah. And you got the voice down. And the other 13 people cram into the bathroom, men and women, everyone's giggling. And this guy looks like, what an intrusion on his personal space. But Gary, without a beat, stands behind him and goes right back into a set like nothing had happened. It was so funny, so amazing. Never happened again.
Oh, it would have been great to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, we made sure he washed his hands.
And he probably got a few complimentary tickets too.
I thought you were going to say he got a few compliments. It's like, wow.
But that was a special moment that never happened again. And those 13, 14 people will never forget it.
It was another night. It was a Sunday night. Again, one of those closing nights. I think we're probably half full. It was in the original room. And Gary was the headliner, and Yakov was the opening act, and they just got stupid. Not only, I think that was one of the nights they did some improv, which didn't happen too often, but I do remember that Yakov got some sparklers.
Oh,
So,
I remember this. Yeah.
Oh, that's probably great.
Gary's,
in a low ceiling with flammable.
So Gary's up there doing his set, and Yakov lights this sparkler and puts it up his butt and runs up on stage and runs around the room. And I forgot what he was trying to prove.
Oh, he was like singing "God Bless America." I mean, he was like being. I think it might have been near July 4th, or Gary was doing a bit about the holidays. I don't remember the setup, but I'll never forget.
It was like a Russian rocket.
How did he put it up his butt?
That might have been it. It might have been the Russia. Gary was talking about Russia and the missile threat or something. But anyway, I don't remember the basics, but that was so funny. Yeah. And Yakov and Gary didn't know what was happening. All of a sudden, Gary comes running out of the back and raced around as long as that sparkler. Yakov. What did I say?
You said Gary.
Gary.
Oh,
which I was trying to.
Gary was talking. Yakov was running around with and he just held it up against his ass.
I was going to say that is commitment to a joke.
Yeah, and he didn't say anything. I mean, he was kind of singing something about America or Russia, and then he runs around Gary a couple times. The sparkler goes out, and boom, he left the stage with no explanation. It was a very funny moment. I'm glad you remembered that.
Yeah, that was funny. I'm going to actually just, I know what I'm going to pull out. Oh, see, and there it is. Robin Williams. So the one night
Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know what day.
And
it doesn't matter.
Twice.
It was
what?
I only remember it once.
No, it happened twice.
I don't remember.
Okay. It's your show.
Sure, Scott.
It was my club. It happened.
He was there twice a week for a month. Yeah. That's it.
Well, I know that I went to, Robin booked a concert in Sacramento. Oh, that's right. My friend Julie, and I attended the concert. But you were clever enough, smart enough to book his pal as an opening act that week with the idea that Robin might come over and do a set.
Oh, my brain. What? I can't think of his name.
Jeremy Kramer.
Jeremy Kramer.
Yep. How did you?
What Bob's leading up to is that Robin he loves stand-up comedy so much that he's doing this sold-out concert at the big pavilion downtown with 2,000 people. And when he gets off stage after doing an hour and 20-minute set, what's he do? He takes his limo over to a local comedy club and will drop in if he has a reason or has a time. Well, because we had Jeremy Kramer and because Jeremy had told Robin what was going on, when he got done with his set, here comes Robin Williams just bebop into the club like he was just another customer. And we escorted him backstage where Jeremy was already off stage. He was an opening act or feature act. And
who was headline? Do you remember?
We could probably look
it was I think it was Saget.
I think it was
because Saget got pissed because Saget was about halfway through a set, and I just went up on stage and said, "Hey,
I had never seen Bob Saget mad."
Well, no, not pissed, but he was like, "Hey, this is my show."
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and even though it was Robin Williams, I mean, I'm just saying he had a few words with me that I may have managed it better.
Yeah,
like waited until him to finish his set.
Yeah,
or something. But instead, I was so excited that Robin was there. I literally walked up on stage in the middle of Bob's set and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have to interrupt the show."
Why would Bob be
I do not remember that.
Yeah. And Bob's like, "What? And I go, "Well, we have to take advantage of
someone
the
much
situation."
funnier here than you are.
I'm saying I didn't handle it well. I was just kind of overwhelmed.
Well, it was overwhelming. And I do remember
Robin goes up and he does like another 40 minutes. Right. I mean, he was having so much fun and the audience was just out of their minds.
I remember the moment that, and I don't remember about Saget being upset or anything, and actually cutting the set short. I don't remember that at all, but I do remember you came out, and when you said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams," and you had such pride in your voice when you said it, and it was like this is the top. This is amazing. And I do remember Robin doing a pretty long set, but
do you remember I just remember a lady, and I don't think it was 3 rows packed. I mean, I know.
No, it was
like
an
2
off
rows.
night.
Yeah, it was a very small crowd, but they were good. But I do remember a lady just standing up and I swear she was crying, just saying, "I can't believe you came here. This is such a small." And
sweet.
then I remember Robin Williams acting like he received an award.
She'll probably. You can imagine that person. She probably has that story. Mm-hmm. She probably thinks of it almost.
She might have been drunk, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe she was. But anyway, I do also remember that after we spent a great evening at the condo with the comics, and Robin was there. He was very gracious. We
I've told this story many times on other podcasts, that what was interesting about Robin is when he was on stage, he was like electrified, right? A mile a minute. Yeah. His mind worked so well. His Rolodex of jokes was just unbelievable. But backstage, he was actually a very kind of shy, quiet guy, was not the class clown or cutting up. He was very respectful of the other comics, whether they were opening acts or stars like Saget. Of course, Saget wasn't famous at the time, but it was still a magical moment for me. And what's interesting about the story, and not to anybody but me, I was so enthralled with the whole evening and everything that happened. I never asked for an autograph or a photo.
No, and that's another thing. If
he may have liked that,
but if we had smartphones back then, it would have been stupid.
Yeah. By the way, there's no phones back then.
We barely even thought to take pictures. I mean, Bentoni took a bunch, but I don't even know. I don't think he has them still. But but he was also a photographer. But God forbid we.
I do remember, like you said, Scott, that he was very, very, very chill. Very calming, and he would talk to you on your level about anything that made sense. And I had the memory of actually he followed me in his car, so I helped him get to the freeway, and so we walked to his car and said goodnight and everything. It was just like another guy. It was just like very calming, and then
and we should explain to people this was after Mork and Mindy, but before a lot of his big movies. So he was already a celebrity, but not the Robin Williams that starred in huge films after that.
83 maybe? Does that
when
make
was
sense?
Mork and
Mindy was on until I think
everybody
81.
go to the Googler and find out.
Or it was like not hiatus.
But it doesn't matter because we had the moment.
We did have
Thank you for bringing that up.
But when was he there again? When did that happen again?
Several years later, similar situation, but not as elaborate. We didn't hang out in the condo. He only went on stage for a few minutes, and I can't remember who he was. He was there to see somebody. But
that's amazing.
That story's the one that sticks with me.
How's our time?
Fine.
How long
Are you having fun,
go?
audience? Are you having fun?
Yeah, I'm having fun. You having fun? Yeah, it was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the co-host, I guess. Bob's the host on this show, but I'm just interrupting because we ended up having so much fun. This goes on for a while, and I didn't want to take up too much of your time. I hope you're enjoying it. It's a little selfish, but the nostalgia, the memories, the stories, I think are interesting. And we hope you enjoy listening to my ex-partner, Bob Stobener, his sister, and one of my favorite employees and comic, Lynn Stobener, and I just chatting about some of the times we had at Laughs Unlimited. So I'm going to stop this one here, and then next week's show we'll have some more. And I hope you're enjoying it. And thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. We'll see you next week for the rest of this show. All right? Thanks. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.